So before I introduce our last speaker for the day, I just got a text message from our guys that are running the video club, and they said there's 546 people viewing this right now. That's pretty cool. I didn't expect that big of an audience today. Our last presenter is Shawn Alholm, and he came to me and he says, you know, I'm a baseball coach, and I know what you do with your weakest hitter. You put him at the end of the lineup. I told him this wasn't baseball. And when you're trying to share with people all the great things that you're doing, you want to send them out with somebody who can deliver a really strong message. And so Shawn's been really influential in helping us do Project Real. Last year when we were in our pilot phase, I can tell you how things worked. First, Shawn would call Neil on the phone, and then if that didn't get him somewhere, he would get him on the Google chat, and if that didn't work, then he'd call me, and if he couldn't get me at my desk, he'd try to get me on Google chat or text message me, and he always had ideas, and he was always there pushing the envelope and pushing us harder and harder to try new things and to find out what the possibilities could be. And Shawn was really a big player in helping us to get Project Real off the ground, along with a lot of other teachers last year. But Shawn's got a lot of really cool things to share with you, and I know that he's going to deliver a really great message, and I definitely know that he is not our weakest hitter.
It's 5 to 12, it's time for lunch. So yeah, I've been teaching 5th grade for 19 years. And I was lucky enough to do the pilot. And I got a funny story. You remember that science guy that was up here? Telling you how he was not so for this. So I get a call from Tim Bjorgi, principal of the high school. He says, hey, can you come over to the high school and talk to our teachers about how well this is going? And I'm like, are you serious? I've heard about those guys. That's like being a steak being thrown to the lions and I'm going to get just demolished. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm in favor of that. But I was happy to see, and I knew they would. They came around, and once they got it in their hands, they're doing some pretty cool things. They wanted to say, well, yeah, I can see where it would be cool in 5th grade. What, you know, in 5th grade it'd be cool. And I'm like, well, I kind of think it would be even more cool in the high school. The application you guys could do there is unbelievable. And that's what they've been doing. So are you going to get me going here, Neil? Or? The big button? There we go. Already too far. So like I said, I did the pilot, so I've been doing this for 2 years, and I often got asked, you know, what's working? Well, it's kind of hard to tell you what's working when it's so many things. And so I just hope to give you a couple of things that we're doing, and one cool example, I think, of what the kids are doing. Where's the computer, Neil? Why don't you just control that thing for me? Now would be good. And then I think you have to click it again. So here are the apps that we use, you know, really on a regular basis. I'll get to Keynote. We use Notarize to write on PDFs. We don't use paper. Last year I asked my kids to bring 6 or 7 or 8 notebooks for their school supplies, and then at conferences in the fall I had to apologize to the parents because we just didn't use them. So that's, you know, that's a substitution. I get it, but it's still money. Spellboard we use to practice. Somebody else mentioned that. Kids are constantly working on their spelling words for the week. I use DoodleBuddy for a whiteboard. I don't really like the whiteboard app, so I use DoodleBuddy when I want them to produce a math problem that we're working on or something like that. Office HD is what we use to create documents. I can also share documents through Google Docs through Office HD. Safari is probably the easiest but coolest thing that we do. I mean, If one thing, I told the high school teachers last year, I said, if you do one thing, instant access to information is probably the coolest thing this device can do. So if you only do that, that's good enough. And obviously you've seen they're doing a whole lot more than that. We use iBooks, and last year we were lucky enough to kind of fly under the radar, and we actually had some iBooks, some trade books that kids were able to read on the iPad, which was phenomenal. I'm sure you're aware of iBooks and how kids can instantly find out what a word means and things like that. However, with the cost of books now, because they figured out that you're going to buy that book for each device, so hopefully they'll work that out. So we don't have any actual books on there, but we do take books from our reading series, PDFs, and download them onto iBooks so the kids can read that book, not only online if they don't, because if they're at home and they don't have the internet, they can just go to their iBooks. I use Recorder HD quite often. I use it for lots of different ways, but a couple of examples. I use it for kids to produce things. So like, I want them to summarize the story that we're reading that week. Send me a recording of that summary instead of typing it up. It's just one other way that they can show me what they know. Then they just email that recording to me. And I also use it for students recording themselves reading. I think it's just another way for them to read that week. And it's also a way that I can listen to them more frequently, so they email that recording to me. And obviously it's a 15-minute recording maybe. I don't listen to all 27 of them, but I could listen to a minute for every single kid. So it's easy for me to do that. And why don't you click on that? Click on the Recorder HD, actually. Ease, Neil. Yeah, release the hounds. Let's click on that icon. Jeez, Neil. This is what Neil would do me that first year. He'd give me these great ideas, and I'd say, well, how am I going to do that? I need the car. What am I going to drive that with? He couldn't. Well, I'll find you the car, but I said, I need the car before we're going to go and do this. And eventually he'd find the car to drive me there, but it wasn't always instantaneously, kind of like this. All right, now click on the icon if you can. There you go. So here's a little video that I took of my kids recording themselves reading, and I just spread them out all over the place. It's perfect, isn't it? All right, it's not that big a deal. Let's go to the next slide. These people want to get to lunch, Neil. Anyway, so I let my kids, or have my kids, record themselves reading. They listen to themselves. They send it to me so I can listen to them. Here's the video. And so we're spread all over the place. In the media center, in the hallway. They're simply reading this selection for that week. So it's a cool way to get the kids reading and then listening to themselves. I think that helps with their fluency. And you could think, well, wow, how's that work? They're all this but you can see they're real focused, and the Recorder HD is really, really good at picking up what they say and not the background noise. So it actually is pretty productive. So you'll see on the next slide after this video, so we do all these things, it's all cool, but to me, the biggest thing, or the most important thing, is, thank you, see you later. Now, we need to go up higher, Neil. Like slide. Oh, you're just ruining everything for me. It comes down to two things. There it is. To me, it comes down to two things. Yeah, save the best for last, right? Yeah. One step from the bench. Those two things, to me, are motivation and engagement. It's been a huge, huge improvement for my kids. They're more motivated to learn. They're more engaged in what they're doing. And they're asking to do more. Just keep clicking if you would. Okay, well, can I do this? So they go, we're reading a story about the Titanic, and they come back the next day and they, look what I found on the Titanic. Well, I never asked you to do that. Or I don't say that to them, but I'm thinking to myself, I never asked them to do that. But they do it because they can. So Keynote is just a wonderful app. I love it. We didn't have it last year, and because it's kind of expensive, but I got it, and I'm so glad we did, because there's so many things we can do with that. Every subject area. Go ahead, just keep clicking. It's useful. It's motivating. Kids are creating presentations, and one of my great example that I'm going to end on is before we had this, my kids would write down weekly vocabulary words. And they would write the word, they'd write the definitions, and they really didn't go back to it much. And I'm not sure that throughout that week if they really learned that week's vocabulary words. But now, they do this. So they create a keynote. They go out, they find the definition, they look for a photo that represents that vocabulary word. They put it in a sentence, and then they create this presentation. And I'm pretty sure that they get it. They understand what that word means more than they did when they wrote it in their notebook. And obviously, the differentiation there is I've got some kids that create some pretty cool stuff, and some kids will put the word, the definition in one picture. So they do what they can at their level. Some kids will put 15 pictures that represent that word. Some kids might write 2 sentences. And of course, they get rewarded for doing the extra. So just one example of how I think using the iPad has enhanced how we teach and how we learn. One of the things as this is finishing up is communication with kids. Email has been really cool in the sense where, and that's what I noticed last year, where I'd look at my email at 8 o'clock or whatever at night, and I'd get these emails from kids. I don't remember how to do question 2 in math or something like that. And quickly I could just tell them, this is how you do it. And they would come to school with their assignment done. And before, they would come with it unfinished because they didn't know how to do it. And so that's just been a really cool thing too. So just simply, I think they've developed a more in-depth understanding of those new words. So that's all I've got. And so anybody wants to stop by this afternoon.
Do I need to put Neil on the waiver wires? Uh-oh.